Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Friday morning. I'm going to get straight into this one because I've got a lot to cover in this video. I'm sticking with the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students, Ethan, Xana, Maddie and Kaylee, this morning. Yesterday I talked about a possible profile of the killer. That was just based on my hunches, some psychology, and a little bit about what we know so far. Very much my profile, and I'm going to add to it, delete, as we find out more about the killer. If we find out more about the killer. So in this video, I want to address a speculation that's going around, a well-founded speculation that perhaps the Idaho killer is the same person that killed a couple in Oregon and a lady in Washington. There's some intriguing similarities between the 3 events, so I'm going to consider that carefully. But first, I'm going to revisit a topic that I've been talking about in my lives, and that is the layout of the house. I think this is important when we think about why the 2 roommates in the basement didn't hear anything or weren't attacked. They weren't even bothered by the killer. And I think the layout of the house tells that story. So this is the house, and those that have been following my lives will have seen this multiple times. I've showed this a lot. So there's 2 bedrooms on each level. So the 2 housemates that survived were sleeping on the 1st floor level, and that's essentially a basement. This is the main floor of the house with the door to the rear. This has a front door, by the way, and a car park right here. And then the 3rd floor where Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping. Ethan and Xana were on this floor. Now, somebody on Reddit had a go at plotting the layout of the 3 floors based on Zillow listing pictures. And I thought they made a good attempt at this. The Daily Mail have gone one step better. Yeah, guys, it's the Daily Mail, but what can you do? They've actually acquired the blueprints for the house because the house had a complete redesign, a total redesign. Originally, it was just this small part here. It didn't have a 3rd floor, and this whole back area didn't exist. It was just this, just a small house. So I'm guessing there was 2 bedrooms, and then a living area kitchen. So it had a complete redesign. So these are the actual blueprints according to the Daily Mail. And they show a picture here of the back of the house. So from the back of the house, it appears to have only 2 stories. It is possible the killer might not have known about the 1st floor if their entrance was made from the rear. Now, what I've been arguing is exactly that if they came in through the rear, they might not have even known that there was a basement. If they came through the front, then they'd have obviously had to go up 2 flights of stairs to get to Kaylee and Maddie. But if they came in through the rear, it's quieter. The rear is shrouded in a good thick line of trees, whereas out the front, it's all houses. So I'm speculating, and I think it's a very fair speculation to make, that the killer came in and then exited through the rear. And it does seem in some of the crime scene photos that reporters have been taking of the investigators, they have looked through like around the entire property, like the crime scene tape covered the entire property, as you would expect. But you can see them in these trees. You can see there's this one picture of a dog trying to find articles that the killer might have left behind, to find clues, going around the perimeter of the home. There is a fence between kind of the border of this property and then next door, but the killer can easily get up through the trees. No problem whatsoever getting out. And this side faces King Road, and then this side faces Queen Road. So if the killer was looking on a map, actually it's the rear that faces King Road, and the address of the property is King Road. So they may not even know about this front area. Now, if they've been to the house before for a party, then maybe they would have known about the 1st floor. Maybe they would have entered on the 1st floor. So it's possible that the killer hadn't been in the house before. As I talked about yesterday in my profile video, that there had been kind of some contact between the 3 young women who were murdered. Ethan doesn't live there. Ethan was a visitor, so the killer probably didn't expect Ethan to be there at all anyway. It's just unfortunate that Ethan was there at all. If the killer had targeted one or more of those young women, or even all of them, as in it wasn't personal to one, but he was perceiving the women to be the type of people that he hates, and, you know, he's got all this built-up anger. But if he entered through the rear, then he might not be aware that the 2 were sleeping in the basement. And then the 2 sleeping in the basement, I don't think would have heard anything, because although Xana and Ethan are over the top here, you can see this is probably Xana and Ethan's bedroom, possibly. But it might not. They might have been sleeping in this bedroom. And if so, then this bedroom's here, far away from this area. And then the 3rd floor, the bedrooms are right at the back. So the bedrooms, these are the bedroom windows, and then there's this roof system. So there's no way that somebody sleeping in the basement would have heard what was going on this 3rd floor. So I think looking at the layout of the house gives us a good indication of where the killer entered and exited, why they didn't attack the surviving women who were sleeping on the 1st floor, and why they didn't hear anything. There is a speculation, a rumour that they did, and they heard a noise, but they just locked the door and thought it was a party or an argument or something. So that could have been when the killer was attacking Xana and Ethan, if they were in this bedroom, or even if they were in this bedroom. They're only 1 floor up. It's interesting looking at the layout of the house, and I think it's really important. And law enforcement are not giving anything away in regard to who was on what floor and exactly where they were murdered. And I think that's important because, you know, these are things that only the killer knows. So it's important to keep that very close to their vest. There is some differences in the blueprints and the way that this person from Reddit visualised the layout based on Zillow pictures. These are all cameras from Zillow, but it's not quite the same as the blueprints. I don't think it matters in relation to the fact that the 1st floor survivors most probably wouldn't have heard anything. If the killer went to the 3rd floor first and attacked Kaylee and Maddie, perhaps that did wake up Ethan and Xana. Maybe they made a noise and it alerted the killer to them. And then once they put up a fight, we know that at least Xana put up a fight. Maybe that scared the person off and they ran. But unfortunately, it was too late for Ethan and Xana. They died anyway. So let me know what you think about all of that in the comments. But what I want to move on to now is the 3 deaths that people are trying to link to this case. And it certainly has merit to consider this, and I'm sure law enforcement are looking at this very carefully. They haven't given us any updates since the 23rd of November. This is their latest update. This was after the conference happened. So this is just an update from the conference, which I streamed, so go and check out that if you didn't see it. So at the time of this investigation, they do not believe the male that Kaylee and Madison attempted to contact, which was Jack, Kaylee's ex, is involved in the crime. Kaylee mentioned having a stalker, but detectives have been able to corroborate the statement, and they're requesting anybody with information about a potential stalker or unusual instances to contact the tip line. And then just how many pieces of evidence they got. 103 pieces of evidence from the house and 4,000 photos. I mean, just a colossal amount of work has gone into this. But they've been good at quelling rumours, putting facts out there. They've been very good at that. So it could be that they're looking into the possible serial killer angle. And if they don't find an angle in that regard, I hope they do quell this, because at least it tells us not to go down that line. But people are talking about 3 deaths that have occurred that are potentially linked. I think 2 of them are worthy of consideration. The 3rd, I don't think so. Now, in February of this year, a University of Idaho student passed away, and this was reported in the University of Idaho's kind of news briefing. I think it's called the Argonaut. A University of Idaho student passed away this weekend, according to an email from Dean of Student Blaine Eccles. Hannah Clear, originally from Provo, Utah, died in Moscow over the weekend. So she studied English literature. As a community, we collectively mourn the loss of Hannah and share our sincere condolences with her family and friends who are most impacted by her passing. Now, there's no indication that this was a suspicious death. There's no information on that. So if this was deemed suspicious, I'm sure that there would be media about it. So sadly, Hannah either died of natural causes or an accident, but not suspicious as far as I can see. But I can understand why people would look at that because, it's in the same year and it's the same university. But the two cases that I think are worthy of consideration are these. 3 separate unsolved stabbing incidents in 3 years spark community concern. Sandra Ladd, Travis Dewerton, and 4 University of Idaho students all stabbed by unknown suspect while sleeping. So this is in the Idaho Tribune, and it's intended to address community concerns, not cause concern. And that's how I'm kind of phrasing this as well, that this is worthy of consideration because this is what people are talking about. So 3 separate unsolved stabbings in 3 years, all under suspiciously similar circumstances, have caused residents across the Pacific Northwest to re-examine past incidents and draw connections to the recent unsolved Moscow, Idaho quadruple homicide, which took the lives of 4 University of Idaho students. In a previous article from the Idaho Tribune, they highlighted connections made between the 2 unseemingly unrelated crimes. So on June 14th, 2020, so 2 years ago, Sandra Ladd, 71, was found deceased in her home with stab wounds to her torso. So same as the 4 students. The coroner said that fatal wounds were to the chest, but the stabs were in the upper torso. Ladd was presumably sleeping in a Washougal, Washington home, possibly in the late hours of the 13th. So the students that we're talking about in this case were also murdered on the 13th, the early hours of November 13th, when an unknown intruder entered her residence and stabbed her to death, and her crime was never solved. No arrests have been made. But they also said there's no danger to the public at this time, but did not elaborate on why. So what would the link be between a 71-year-old woman in a completely different state and 4 university students in Idaho? Fast forward 1 year, and only an hour and a half drive away from Washougal, authorities in Marion County, Oregon, have hit a dead end in their investigation into the August 13th, 2021 homicide case, where an unknown masked assailant entered a sleeping couple's home and attacked them at 3 a.m. with a knife, never to be caught. The husband, Travis, 26, was pronounced dead at his home, while his wife, Jamie Lynn, survived after being stabbed 19 times. The intruder is said to have entered at 3 a.m. and began stabbing the couple while they were in bed. Travis defended himself and his wife from the masked intruder, but ultimately succumbed to his wounds. But Jamie Lynn survived. No suspect has been named in the early morning stabbing. These are the 2 that were attacked, and sadly, Travis lost his life. Strikingly similar, both incidents have sparked the curiosity of online sleuths who have said the unsolved stabbings appear to have taken place under similar circumstances. So let's look at the 3 events on a map. So this is where the Idaho 4 house is, 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Let's do some measurements here. From Washougal, from the event that took place in 2020, it's 277 miles as the crow flies. And then to Marion County, it's 307 miles as the crow flies. Now, serial killers tend to have a kind of home ground. They tend to live fairly local to the killing area. Serial killers might fan out. Yorkshire Ripper a case that I know very well. He tended to focus around 2 towns, Bradford and Leeds, although he did branch out as far as Manchester because he did travel some with his work. If these 2 cases are linked to the Idaho case, this was 2020, this was 21. Now, these are close to each other, so I could easily see these 2 being linked. So roughly, let's do this, about 50 miles. So easily they could be linked. The killer lives somewhere in the middle here, or could live here and has reason to go here. Crossing a state line, they might have a conscious decision to cross a state line. But this, now of course, the killer could have moved to Idaho in the year since this one, the year and a bit since this one. So that's possible. And if you look at serial killers who do have a wide reach, such as Israel Keys, I mean, his killings were all over the US. Well, that was somebody who was so meticulous in their planning. They planned killings up to 2 years in advance. Very unusual. But it is unusual that serial killers do have that wide reach because they just don't have the capacity to do it. They tend to stick around areas that they're comfortable with. So I'm not sure about any link here. As I said in my video yesterday, I think this person has killed before. To go from nothing to killing 4 people in that most brutal way, they've either got experience killing non-human animals or they've killed before. But what would the link be between a 71-year-old woman here, a young couple here, and then Idaho students here? So I'm not sure. It's intriguing that all of the killings happened on a 13th of a month. That's a bit strange. So we've got June 14th, but probably happened like on the 13th. So June and then August. So that's 14 months. And then November. So that's 15 months. So they're well spaced out. That's very intriguing. So I bet it is something that the law enforcement are looking at very, very carefully. It's a long way to travel for a serial killer, but I'm not ruling it out. It's very intriguing. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. I'll see you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Spring. Bye, guys. What is it? Oh, what are they? What are they? What are they? What are they? Get it! Where is it? Where is it? Go on, get it! Go get it! Good girl! Good girl! Good girl!